Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Good day and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome David Brier, the recipient of over 320 international awards on design and branding. David has the rare distinction of being presented the Presidential Ambassador for Global Entrepreneurship Medallion, a native New Yorker and Google's #1 ranked rebranding expert. David's 4 decades of branding expertise are sought after by companies of all sizes, from startups to global organizations, and every industry demanding an unorthodox edge in today's business climate. In addition to being a branding and rebranding expert and keynote speaker, David is the best-selling author of his #1 Amazon book, Brand Intervention: 33 Steps to Transform the Brand You Have into the Brand You Need, with foreword written by Shark Tank star and CEO of Fubu, David John. Claude Silver, Chief Heart Officer at Vander Media, Gary Vaynerchuk's agency, wrote, "This is not only an outstanding book on branding, but it is an excellent example of branding, design, and content I keep in my office. I only wish I had this book at the beginning of my career." David and his work have been featured in Adweek, Fast Company, Forbes, Inc., Huffington Post, Entrepreneur, Thrive Global, the New York Times, and numerous blogs and podcasts around the world. I'd like to welcome you to the show, David. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Absolutely, dude.
I love that. I love the book.
Introduction. We go.
Yeah, I love it. Do you know what? You need to put some LEDs in there and just have a little battery behind it and just have it flashing.
I know it's a little too low key, isn't it?
Yeah. It's too boring for you.
I know. By the way, you mentioned this. I'm gonna actually. I keep.
Sure, go ahead.
I keep this by my desk every day, and so the thing is in this is see, it's because this is the medallion that you mentioned. This is the actual presidential. Not many people see this, and it's the presidential medallion that is right here.
That is amazing.
Boom! There it is, right there.
Wow.
And there's the back of that sucker. So you see it all, boom, 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 boom. And so that's that little beast. So
I thought you would have it behind glass with light shining on it. And
I wanted to get a second one so I can wear it as glasses, and it would be like, hey man, what's going on? That's right, I'm very 60s dude.
I love it. So David, one of the things that I like doing, and I've specialized, I've been told I do, I really like, most podcasts or conversations, people are very surface and they only talk about, oh, David did all these successful things. But I'm a person that really likes understanding somebody's origin story. And I don't mean just their origin from high school. I mean from your earliest recollections of your life. So could you do me a favor? What key things from your childhood to adulthood that led you to where you're at currently? And everything's fair game. Tell me anything you want.
All right. Well, I was born at a very young age in Brooklyn, New York. I want to make sure you're catching all details. I was born at a very young age in Brooklyn.
Yes, I got that, but I.
All right. Fair enough.
Are we going to laugh more than we talk?
No. We cannot laugh more. All right. So here's the thing. Brooklyn is where I was born. So Brooklyn, born in 59, and I loved and longed for Brooklyn as I grew up and moved, so up to 5 years old, lived in Brooklyn. Then we moved to Queens, Jamaica, Queens. And that was and both of those were very mixed neighborhoods, lots of different ethnic variety. Loved on my block. We probably had in Brooklyn, I think we had Polish, Italian, Black, white, maybe Hungarian. So it's just like, you literally had you had so much ethnic, just
Well, what we'd call a melting pot, right?
completely a melting pot.
And that's what North America is famous for, right? We're
Well, in theory, yes.
In theory, okay.
But the bottom line is look, now I live and work in the Midwest, and yeah, there are people with Germanic backgrounds, there are people with Irish backgrounds, and this and that, the other. But it's much more homogenized. It's less. The ethnic variety isn't as rich. You don't walk down the street where, like for example, you could walk down the street in Manhattan, and you could, over the course of 5 blocks, and you could hear totally urban, bam, a real soulful conversation here, or a real, hey, how you doing? And so literally you just go from, continent to continent to continent, just walking down the block. And that I love, and people are unapologetic about it. They're there. It's raw. It's not that it's abrasive, but the thing is that this is the nuance that I loved and that I appreciate about New York. Less about New York today because I hate what's happening to my city. I don't like what's been going on there. I think it's just being horrendously run. But that aside, I would say then when I was growing up, if something happened in your house, let's say I went to school and I scraped my knee, we might have a neighbor from 3 houses down come and like Florence, that was my mother's name, Florence, how's David? It would be like this. It would be like this. So they want to know. But there was this. It was like a communal. It was a communal thing. It wasn't like, oh, you're invading our privacy. That thing that exists in a lot of different areas of oh, we want our privacy. We don't want to know our neighbors. And hell, you could live in a New York City apartment and maybe get to with 300 other people and maybe get to know 1 or 2 actual neighbors. So it's it was very the division is stronger now. Back then it was less, and it was this inclusiveness. It was it was all part of, we're all here to make it in this country, and we're all here to thrive and to survive and to overcome barriers. And so there's more of a communal vibe, and I love that.
That's awesome. So you're growing up, you moved to Queens, we're in the mixed neighborhood. Go on.
Yeah, so Queens was cool. I dug Queens. I was like a sponge. I was like a cultural sponge, where I was really, oftentimes we'd go to Greenwich Village every Sunday. We'd get the New York Times. We'd leaf through the New York Times, the cultural section, this or that, news, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Grab a bagel, maybe some bagel and smoked salmon and this, that, the other, blah, 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 and cream cheese. And, I back then, my tastes evolved. I think we just did cream cheese and lox and bagels, right? Now it's I'd go cream cheese, thinly sliced red onion, thinly sliced tomato, capers, the lox. I do it up, and anyway, but
you've matured a little bit. Is that what you're saying?
A little, yeah. And me and the cork, and the wine. We just kind of, and so, but that's basically. There wasn't a lot in Jamaica that I kind of took away from it. It was a place I grew up, but it was a time when I was very much sort of mentally curating the things that I found fascinating and loved. Like, for example, like that painting right there. That's a painting of George Harrison. I did that when I was like 16 years old, right?
Wow.
This is artwork and all these different artwork from different periods of my life and time, and there's tons of artwork over here in the office as well. And I loved art. I loved music. I loved the sounds and the smells. I loved street performers walking through Greenwich Village and on there's cobblestone streets in certain parts of West Village, and loved that. And those were fun to walk down, and you smell the smells coming from the different restaurants or open cafes or whatever like that. So all that kind of stuff. And street food was fun, and the art festivals were fun. So that was my time of absorbing.
That's excellent. So were you a kid that loved sports? Were you a person that, what excited you when you were younger, leading up into adulthood? What kept you busy? Yes, you went and did this stuff with your family and had fun in Greenwich Village.
A lot of creativity, a lot of drawing.
When did you start? When did you start drawing and doing art?
Probably literally as soon as I could hold a pencil. I mean, seriously. So I was always drawing. I always loved doodling and drawing. I mean, my wife finds it fascinating because literally, if you and I were talking on the phone, and let's say I had my earbuds and stuff like that, and I was just hanging out, we'd be talking, and I probably would do a little doodle, and that some people go, what the hell? It's, to me, it's the air that I breathe. It's how I do shit. Right. And so with that, that's just what I do. And you're like, what the hell? Cause I can do, I have the skill. I enjoy it. It's sort of what I do. And I also played basketball, not in school formally, but like we played basketball on a concrete, on our concrete playground, and so we played basketball there, and we played, touch and tackle football on the grass adjacent to that park. So I wasn't part of any teams in school. I was too rebellious.
Not you.
I didn't.
Not you.
Well, I know it's gonna shock people, but I wasn't my conduct wasn't my strongest grade.
But your creativity, though, your art and your drawing, and you've talked about even today doodling, now it makes a lot of sense as to how your connection to branding occurred. So it did start at a young age. You had a very creative nature. You'll pretty much have that till the day you die, which is going to keep you young, keep you going, which is phenomenal. Yeah. So, David, you have 4 decades of branding expertise and are sought after by companies of all sizes, every industry demanding you, as you say, an unorthodox edge. What, if any, profound moment led you down the path of caring about branding and the story it presents?
Well, there's a couple of transition points. So I was an art major, and I decided, okay, how am I going to make a living, right? Because I wasn't particularly driven by, I didn't care about money or career or something like that. I mean, I wanted to draw and paint and do different things. And so my mom was like, when are you going to get a job? When are you going to get a job? When are you going to get a job? And I'm like, oh, so I don't know. I was oblivious. And so it was like, all right. And went to as an art major. The last semester, I saw a publication. I'd never seen a publication like that before. This is not a publication you would see in, not something on the newsstands. It was a trade publication. It was unbelievable. I literally have stashed away in a where it's protected. It's not exposed to light because it's newsprint, so it yellows slower. But the design of it was, I'd never seen design like that. I've never seen this level of craft. I was like, it literally made me a holy shit. Because at that point I'm going, okay, if I'm an art major, how am I going to make money? I'll be an illustrator. That's how I can make money. Okay, I see magazines, I see album covers for those listeners who are younger, there's something called album covers. Before digital streaming, before digital distribution, before you having like freaking like, 40 billion songs on your freaking smart device, the bottom line is there were these things called, and before CDs, you probably know about CDs, there were these big, beautiful landscapes for an artist or a designer. It was 12 inches square. And some of the most amazing art was being done on these things. And when it was really cool is when you had a double album and it would actually open up. And that means you had 24 inches by 12 inches. That's one hell of a canvas for an illustrator. So anyway, so these are some of the places I was like, ooh, and I could see posters and I could see this and I could see that. In New York, I'm seeing all this stuff and seeing things done for Broadway and oh, wow, wow, wow. Okay. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do. But then when I saw this publication, I was like, holy shit. Do I want to just be a musician in the orchestra, or do I want to be the conductor who makes sure there's a freaking symphony? That to me was the dividing line. Right there was the dividing line. It's like, well, okay, if I'm, I could be the most technically proficient musician. That's my analogy. And okay, that means there's got to be a conductor. Hopefully the conductor's good. Hopefully the song that he or she picked is good. Hopefully my other musicians are good. There's a lot that I'm hoping on that I'm not able to actually control and determine. So it's like, do I want that? Which to me, that was like, being an illustrator, it's like, okay, hand it off to an art director. They can do a lot of shit things with that. You can give them a masterpiece and they can do shit with it. Did I want that? That was my point of like, I think I want to be a designer. I could use my illustration capabilities if I chose to. I could use my art, design, my sensibilities, aesthetics, form, layout, message, all these various things. That appealed to me more because then I could at least have as much impact as possible on the outcome. So that was the shift. And that I kind of morphed through for after about 8 to 10 years I was always learning more. And I wanted to get into the marketing aspect of things. Well, no, I didn't want to get into the marketing aspect, but I saw that there was definitely a bridge between this thing called design, which made sure that stuff looked good and had the right persona, the right image. It's kind of like the difference of like, well, I can have two candidates who want a job walk in the door. One's showing up with some really ugly ass 1973 plaid jacket that, and it's like, and you hear it when you hear the starch in it as they're walking across the room. You're like, oh, it's almost painful just to watch. It's like, no, please don't take another step. And then you have someone next to him. It's like properly groomed, beautiful suit. It drapes perfectly, great tie, class, the right shoes, the whole deal. You don't hear the as they're walking across the floor. Which one are you going to pick? And so to me, these were the decisions. It's like, well, which one am I going to pick? I don't care whether you think that's prejudicial. Bullshit. I think it's a bullshit discussion. I think that's a bullshit detour. That's not. We're talking about one took responsibility for the impression they were going to have upon me. The other didn't. The other was numb. Maybe someone here likes plaid suits. That's fine. You can like your plaid suits, but hey, I have the right to choose based on what I see, because to me, everything that you choose to do, everything that I choose to do is a reflection of our values. It's a reflection of our awareness. It's a reflection of, am I attentive? Am I tone deaf? How am I connecting with the world outside? There's self-awareness, there's awareness outside as well. And you've got to have a balance. And that's the thing. And so I started to just look at those things. And that's when I started to look at and realize there's more to than just design, because I was seeing really ugly ass shit, like really shitty looking stuff that was designed horribly selling millions of. I'm going, what the hell's going on here with the world? So I wanted to get underneath. I wanted to get underneath the hood and go, what's making this shit tick, right? And that's where the branding part started to evolve.
That's amazing. I love your analogy and your stories behind it. The plaid, the person wearing plaid versus the perfectly cut suit. People don't realize though today that somebody makes an impression of you within the first 30 seconds of seeing you before you open your mouth. And sometimes opening your mouth doesn't fix it. Right. So I completely.
I think. Well, we won't get into this, but I'll just say we see that on the world stage. Whether we're talking with world leaders of any sort, we see that I think happen on practically a daily basis. So
absolutely, we are living in an interesting age. One of the things I wanted to add on that, so adding the fact that that's how you got directed and excited about going under the hood, like you mentioned. Why is it so important today now? Because it also ties into the fact you talked about albums and the 12 by 24. You missed 8 tracks, by the way. I am old enough to know.
There's a reason why.
Such a small, such a small thing that got stuck into a hole and you couldn't see anything anyway.
Yeah, I also skipped over cassettes too.
Yeah, well, yeah, true. But so why is it so important? So now you're looking under the hood, and now you've been doing this for so long. In today's electronic age, as you showed the phone saying we have access to billions of songs, why is it so important in today's electronic age to take branding more serious?
That's a very, very excellent question. And here's the answer to that. Because the world has gotten so freaking noisy. Pick any product, any service of any sort. I don't care whether it's something in the entertainment sector, something in the vital necessity sector, something in like, well, wearable, a place you want to eat at. There's no shortage, right? There's no shortage. So literally, if you were like, hey, if I said, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go up and visit you in Canada, you know, and say like, what restaurant do we want to eat at? And it's like, oh, you know, now unless you live in a town of like, I don't know, 24 people or something like that, presuming that you live in a place where there's population, you know, you're gonna have choices, right? We're gonna go, oh, okay, well, we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this, we could do that. Now, understanding, yes, there's different cuisines. Are we going to eat Chinese? Are we going to eat American? Are we going to eat, French? Are we going to eat like nouveau this or whatever, blah, 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 blah. So you go, which way are we going to go? Italian, whatever. Understanding there's these different genres. How do we make a choice? What's going to get us over the edge of things being just a candidate to being on the short list of our attention as consumers, right? What's going to get on my short list? What's going to make me go, ooh, I really want that? Why is it that Apple today can still charge what they charge? Even though there are other companies that technology's, close, sometimes might even be more, might be higher performing. But why is it, Apple, deliver as a brand, it delivers so well on so many fronts. You take that product and you open it, and anybody that's ever bought an Apple product, you buy the product. It's like the box is itself a work of art. It fits perfectly. It's like hand in glove. You're like, holy crap! They didn't shortcut this, they didn't shortcut that, and all the bits and nuances and details. It confirms that I do not have buyer's remorse. I didn't feel like, okay, they completed the transaction, then they gave me the, hey, nice buddy, enjoy yourself, right?
That's funny. And you know what? I love you're obviously such a great storyteller, and those that are watching it now or watching this when it releases on YouTube as a podcast. I've had that experience. When you're separating that box with your iPhone, you're right. It's all tied together. I never really thought about that. The whole box, the presentation, the opening, it's actually thrilling. Right? It's like it's not like, oh crap, I just spent $1,500 on this phone. So you talk about that. So that connection of that feeling of that vacuum, pulling it apart. Does branding have a lot to do, and can it be tied to smells and sounds besides just visual?
100%. Hey, look, I mean, like here's a perfect example. For those that are seeing this visually, it's like you could look at me now And you can say, yeah, all right, it sounds okay, he's doing this kind of stuff. And then I can go, yo, what's up? How you doing? How you doing?
You need the gold chains, brother.
I need some gold change. Exactly. So the thing is that, yo, what's going on? Hey, by the way, have you invested in my coin? Hey, how you doing? And so the thing is, all of it makes an impression. It's kind of like again, I'll go, this is a little flashback to New York, but there were delis, delis that I remember hearing stories like there were delis. That's how much of food is smell? A lot, right? So the thing is that there were delis like, where you go and they'd have fresh bread and this, that, the other, and they would have the vents above the door. The vent would take the fresh bread smell right from their freaking ovens, and it would go out into the street. You'd smell that and you'd be like, wham, you're in there in a heartbeat. And then I remember hearing there were some places it's like, all of a sudden, hey, people aren't coming in as much. And they realized, oh shit, someone messed with the venting and the smells that they immediately got that corrected, fixed it, bam, shink, people are being sucked right in. So smell is enormous. The smell, for those that love coffee, the smell of a really good cup of coffee. When you walk into a coffee house and you smell, you're like, oh, right. Ah. And, and it's, the best chefs will pay attention to smell as much as they will pay attention to taste, because those two go hand in hand.
So do all brands include all the senses? Is sound as important?
Sound is important, but no, they don't. And you're gonna learn that. You're gonna love this. You're gonna reflect back on this conversation in, I think it's week 4 of the masterclass that you're doing. I go into 23 key differentiators, of which most companies use about 3 to 4. Okay, there's 23 that I've actually broken down, and one of them is smell. Yes.
Yeah. So, but by the time people listen to this as a podcast, it'll be the end of September, right around my birthday, and we'll be a couple weeks into it. So
we got to celebrate your birthday, dude. Well, when's your birthday? What date?
September 30th.
September 30th. All right, everybody listening, September 30th. You need to freaking send them good coffee, good wine, good food. It's
good vibes. Come on, send me some vibes too.
Send them some vibes. Don't send them any frou-frou shit. Don't send them a box of Krispy Kremes. Okay, send them something reflective with culture.
So since we brought it up, and before we go on, I'm going to give you a shot to talk about it, because there is some people that are watching. Talk about what exactly I'm going to, you're offering, and I'm part of, starting on the 11th of September.
Oh, totally. So here's the thing. Oh, and by the way, another prop I didn't mention. By the way, this book, I didn't even know about this. This was fascinating. About 4 months ago, this came out. This became a New York Times bestseller. This is the book written by Reed Hastings, the Netflix co-founder and CEO, of Netflix. No Rules. I had somebody send me an email and say, "Hey, David, really impressed that you're in the book." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" The new Netflix book. And I'm thinking, new Netflix book? Was this on their new programming? Is it new shows coming up? Well, I honestly was clueless. I was so knee deep in projects. I didn't know that there was a book coming out. It just came out on page 24 of the forward. It actually goes over that, it talks about Steve Jobs and the factor of innovation. It talks about Sir Richard Branson's mantra is said to be A to B to C, always be connecting the dots. And David Brier and Fast Company, released the fascinating video that claims the way we connect life's dots defines how we see reality, and thus how we make decisions and reach conclusions. So I am right here in this freaking book, Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, and me. Yo, take that to the bank.
And I know one of them. So
exactly. There you go. It's the beginning.
A little bit more of my 15 minutes of fame.
Exactly. Well, and you only have an option to meet one of the others.
Yeah, true. It's true.
But to get to your question, see this. So I came out with this. As soon as I came out with this, now, and I'd written this when I basically, so it was a few years ago. So I'd been branding for 36 years, something like that at this point, and I was finding there were always the same questions, the same confusions, the same misconceptions, the same blind spots that I was always hearing. And it didn't matter. I mean, I've worked with everyone from Revlon to Estee Lauder to the Lauder family to Jim Henson of Muppets fame to New York Times to small startups that have now become, incredible, national and global brands. So I've covered the spectrum, and I love dealing with entrepreneurs. This came out, people went nuts. Part of it was because of the way it was designed, but like for example, that's how the sucker's designed. Oh, there's a photo op. There's a photo op right there. Boom, boom. Hold on here. Photo op. All right. So the thing is right here. This is how the text looks. Okay. And people go, what the hell? At first they're shocked, and then they start laughing. And young kids love it because they got the attention span of a chicklet. And then those that are like 50 plus are like, finally. And I remember showing it to the first person that I was like 50 plus. And I said, oh yeah, here's my book. Da, 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 da. And they're like, finally. And I'm like, finally what? And they go, a book I could read without my cheaters. And I was like, oh my God, I never even thought about that. But the point of this book was to really get into this is the look and the feel of it. And the last 50 pages show you actual examples of brands that I've worked with that have implemented all of this stuff. So it's not something, it's very dense. It's very concentrated. You could read, I took out the fluff. I was personally a very frustrated business book reader. I couldn't stand the 300-page books that I had to like find, where's the 10 pages that actually have the shit that there's always 10 pages that had the shit. The stuff that was before it was foreplay, and the stuff afterward was like smoking a cigarette going, that was pretty good. Wow, man, that was all right. And so I'm like, all right, well, enough of that shit. So I was like, why am I going on a treasure hunt? If I'm going to go on a treasure hunt, if you at least show me the respect to say, by the way, if you want to start, if you want to just get to the good stuff, go to page, 178 and you're good, right? Thank you. Thank you for valuing my time. Okay. Well, that's why I wrote this. And people have loved it because it's so impactful. All right. Now, so fast forward. So as soon as I come out, people are like, holy shit, David, you got to do a digital course. Got to do a digital course. And I'm looking around at the digital courses. I hate what I'm seeing. I think any digital courses that I've seen and taken, they suck. They are poorly organized. They make the person delivering it the most important and the smartest person in the room. That's bullshit. Any course that's built around the person delivering it being the smartest person in the room is bullshit. You need to be the most important person in that course. You, the person doing the program. Also, too many programs I saw were making, it's like, oh, do this so you can learn to think like blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. The only power is going to come from you being able to think like and for yourself, not being able to think like me. I will show you what I've done. And more importantly, I'll show you why I did it. If you understand why I did it, you will be able to think for yourself. Information is only as valuable as you and I have inspected it for ourselves. Not because I said it's important and I'd like you to now follow like a marionette, like a little puppet. You can be a mindless moron idiot. That's bullshit. If that was my frustration. So I took 9 months in 2020. While still working with clients, I was like, I want to supplement, because that was such a oh shit moment for so many people in so many industries. I was like, okay, I want to diversify a bit. I want to take advantage of this opportunity. It took 9 months and put together what, in my experience, is the best curriculum that I have ever seen. People's lives have changed as a result of doing this in 9 weeks, literally. We've put 44 people through the program and they've generated in excess of $35 million in revenue and sales.
Wow.
I've had people who have been in business for 30 years, had their highest ever milestones. There's one of the alumni in Chicago. He's been in business over 40 years. And like, I think within, 8-9 weeks after, he calls me up, he goes, David. I said, what? He goes, we had our highest month in the history of our company. all implementing what you taught us. And so, I mean, that's pretty routine, and everyone is on different scales. It depends on, what's the cost of the service that they're selling, et cetera, or product that they're selling. So, some of it's going to be dramatic and some of it's but they get into the groove of now being in the driver's seat and no longer being, well, if I just do what David says, bullshit. Anybody, any program, I'm saying this to anybody that's listening to this, that's an entrepreneur, any program that makes the program the master and you the slave is a bullshit program. You need to be empowered. You need to be given the independence. You need to be able to think for yourself. And that's the difference about this. This is built with you, the entrepreneur, as the nucleus of the program, not as on one of the outer rims. So that's the thing that's happening, is that literally in 9 weeks, I can absolutely guarantee anybody doing it, you will know more than an MBA who's gone to a marketing MBA for freaking 4 years. You'll know more with more practical application than they in 9 weeks than they actually did in 4 years. Not even comparable. And you will be unstoppable. You'll go, holy shit. You'll know when to dial it up. You'll know when to pull it back. You'll know if it's going, hey, it's not hitting. What do I need to do for it to hit? And you can self-correct. You're now the navigator. And that's what gets me so freaking excited, because man, it's kind of like, I mean, I know you have kids. I've got kids. Imagine having like 44 kids who text you only like with good news. Hey, David, hey, David, just closed another $200,000 deal. I'm like, it's like, that's all. And I don't have to wonder. I don't have to wonder, are they just going to randomly just drop in the house? Hey, I'm hungry. Hey, I'm out of work. Hey, my girlfriend just broke up with me. I don't have to worry about that shit. I'm just getting the good stuff.
That's good though. Like, wow, that's amazing. 44 people have gone through it, and it took you how many years to create that course?
Well, to create the course,
or to get to making the course, pardon me, to start doing it. How many years had you been doing it before you decided the course was 36 years, 37 years?
Well, the book was after about like 36 years, and then the course was like about 39.
Oh, okay.
Almost just shy of 40. And that was the actual point at which I was like, okay, because I had done some programs with some of the gurus. I'll leave their names out of this, I don't need to alienate anybody right now. But look, take your pick of gurus. And the thing is, I found it was a lot of what I call the tactical bullshit. Look, it's like I need someone who's some best-selling blah 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 to tell me how to do an Instagram post. That's value, or telling me the frequency that I need to do, that I should be posting every day. That's value, or that I should, or the headline's really important. That's value. Bullshit. Why? If you're not explaining why, I am not giving you the true goods, because if you don't understand why, you're just going to go through the motions. That's tactical bullshit. That's too layer, too surface.
But you even mentioned though too that how many people offer this stuff that they're highly educated, and they teach all the here's this, whatever you want to call it. Here's my list. Here's all the things that you need to do. Here's what here's what'll be successful. And when I leave courses like that in my lifetime, and I've had courses, not necessarily just with digital, I'm talking in the finance world. And prior to that, being in the electronics engineering world, I left feeling blah. And literally my retention level was so low because I was not engaged. So you're telling me the number one reason that people fail is lack of engagement, and making me number one.
100%. Well, that's what see, and that's the other thing. And I know you and I talked about this. The one thing that I built into this program, I realized that, never learn for one, always learn for two. And so I built that into the program. And what I mean by that is every week for the full 9 weeks, besides the factor of because there's two things that happen in tandem. One is there's the program, and then there's the actual every week. There's a 2-hour Zoom call or I am with you. We don't get off that call until you've gotten, if you're like, well, I read this, David. Yeah, I mean, it made sense, but I don't get how that I can apply that to my business, or how the heck would I apply it to my business? People, just because people are willing doesn't mean they have imagination, right? Okay,
True.
let's not confuse willingness with ability to execute, or willingness with the ability to imagine, or willingness with the ability to write, or even see what's possible. They may be too close to it, or it may just not be a strong skill set of theirs, and so they may need to, but at least they can now know what should happen and get someone who is doing that. But never learn for one, always learn for two. Guaranteed. If I said, all right, Dwight, I'm gonna teach you something. I'm gonna teach you how to make this freaking cool hat. Okay, I'm gonna teach you how to make this. And when we're done, I want you need to teach Dorothy over there how to do it too. The difference between if I said, all right, I'm gonna teach you, and us going through that process, and me going, all right, I'm going to teach you, and you, when we're done, are now responsible for teaching Dorothy how to do it, is going to be completely different in the way that you're going to be accountable for it and own it as information. So what happens is every week, you must take one thing you've learned in the program and teach it to another.
I'm game.
And that's the thing that's so cool. And I say, I don't tell people how to teach it. I don't tell them, I don't tell you what to pick. You pick from what you studied that week. Good. You teach them however you want. You're going to do it over coffee. You're going to do it over a whiteboard. You're going to do it through interpretive dance. You're going to do it through mime. I mean, how you going to do it? I leave it up to you, because you need to own your ability to get an idea from here over there successfully. That skill and mastering that skill. So it helps you refine your ability to tell story. It helps you to convey an idea. And I love when people go, and you have to then, when you're done doing that, you then do a short little video each week, and you say, okay, all right, you know what? This week I decided to pick blah, 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 blah. And I picked my buddy Dwight, and I taught him this and da, 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 da. And he realized, oh my God, in my business, I can do blank, 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 blank. And that's what went well. What didn't go well is he really didn't realize blah, 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 blah. And so that's what I'm going to improve next week. And so you're going to, and I always advocate that people pick different people each week, so they don't kind of get into a comfort. Oh, I can always, oh, my sister, I can always talk to my sister. She's my younger sister. She always needs my help. And bullshit. That's too much of a crutch. All right. No, I want you to go to some other people. And so, but that's the thing that happens, and it's always fascinating.
So I have to have more than 9 friends then. Oh gosh, too much pressure.
That's why we're talking. I wanted to give you the part. You have about 8 days or 9 days or something like that to actually, oh shit. I
gotta find people that like me. I love it. This is going to be fantastic. So people watching, people listening, for those that are listening on the podcast, too late. For those that are watching, listening right now, you still have time to reach out to David. I can't wait. It's going to be an amazing experience. Just listen to this man. You're going to have so much fun, but you're going to also learn. And that's the biggest thing for me. I get bored easily. I like humor. I like people that understand tonality. They understand visualization is important, everything. And that's what you're going to get, the full meal deal with David. So enough promoting my buddy. So let's go on. David, your book is a best-selling #1 book, 33 Steps to Transform the Brand. Why 33? Why not 34, 32? What made you decide to stop at 33?
Well, I made a list of what are the things that routinely are just like, they just don't get it. They don't understand it. And they're not esoteric, tough things, but I mean, sometimes it's just the fundamental stuff. It's like I love, I mean, you'll love it. I mean, here's a perfect example. I mean, I was speaking to someone yesterday who's enrolled in the program, and I could see, and he's going, David, I'm thinking of maybe not doing it this time, but doing it like in the future. And I said, dude, And I already knew, I already knew what the problem was. And I talk about it in the book, is that, proximity, our proximity to our baby, our business, our thing is a major liability. We're a little drunk on the Kool-Aid, we're not impartial enough and all that kind of stuff. And someone walks in who's like, someone who has no experience. I always love someone who has no experience. They're completely, and maybe they're in high school, and they're like, how come you guys doing blah? And you're like, what are you talking about? Well, that blah over there, that blah, 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 blah. And you're like, and because we have seen it every day, they're like, we're like, holy shit, we never realized that was there. And that sent out a particular message to people when they walked in, and oh my God, we've been shooting ourselves in the foot ever since. So, so I just looked at those things, and this person that I was speaking to yesterday, he goes, oh, yeah, I'm thinking of doing it in the future. I said, dude, you've already told me you ain't no spring chicken. You want to supposedly sell your business in like, 5 to 7 years. You're because of personnel changes, you're having to get back in the grindstone of like doing shit. And in 12 weeks, without you doing this program, you're going to be doing the same shit, and there ain't going to be no light at the end of that tunnel. And the only thing that's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel is you stepping away from this, your 12, 14-hour days, and actually learning something new to get the hell out of that. And you need that space to reinvigorate yourself and to breathe new life into what you're doing, because otherwise, how the hell are you going to inspire those that are working for you if you're doing the same old shit you've been doing for the last 35 years?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You talked throughout this conversation about working with the willing. You just mentioned about the fact where you're going to be in 12 weeks from now. Honestly, that's big things. People get stuck in that hamster wheel, like I talk about in my book and my podcast all the time. And they just, like you said, he's up in his years. We only have one shot. So you can be willing, but are you going to be a participant along the way is another thing you mentioned. So obviously those 33 steps are a culmination of all your years of experience. I was just curious though, because, magical number 33, I was looking at the book last night when I was putting together what I wanted to talk about. And I thought 33, like I got to ask him that. It may be a most obscure question, but I was curious, right? Obviously, you might think to yourself after the fact, oh, I should have put one more point in, or damn it, that one's not the best. But at this point, it's set in stone. Just keep it the way it is, right? It works.
It's set in stone. And to your point, the funny thing is when we did the first masterclass, because I really, 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 really went through like, how am I going to make this actionable? Like instantly actionable, like nothing obscure. I don't want anybody, and it's like, no. How do I like make this like really bam? Like, here's the deal. Here is the thing you need to know. Boom. This is the thing. What is the shortest line between point A and point B? And so it was very funny. There was, I think it was the first masterclass, and I think it was week 4, or no. So I think it was week five maybe, and like all that, and like we were just chopping along. Everything was going great. There was something different about this week. Like everyone's on the Zoom call, and I'm going, and they're kind of, and I'm like going, and people are asking unusual questions, kind of like peculiar questions. I'm going, these are different. These are weird. And so I end up at like about 10 minutes before, like an hour and 50, because we do it for 2 hours, an hour and 50. I'm like, so how are you guys doing? Okay. I'm like going, oh shit. Usually they're like blown out of their head. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't wait to get into this. And I'm going. So I take a quick vote, a quick poll. I go, how many of you guys still have questions? Every one of them raised their hand. I was like, holy shit. I was stunned. And I said, and I saw where the confusions and the stuff was. And so I said, okay. I said, all right, guys, I'm willing to put in another hour tomorrow morning how many of you guys want to be there? And they all raised their hands. I said, okay. And I wrote 2 articles, and I call them the 2 missing chapters, that literally address the exact things that they were kind of going. And so I said, so I wrote them that night. I emailed them over to them. I said, I want every one of you to read this before we actually go over this. And then I said, how were those? They were like, oh, that was so good. Because it just filled the void of whatever they were like. And so, and it's simple. It's simple, but I kind of didn't realize people, to me, it was this little leap. And to them, it was like this chasm. It was like, oh shit. And so I built a little quick bridge overnight.
Good for you though, because I've been in so many courses, right sitting in a room to being on the computer over the last 5-6 years. And most people wouldn't give a shit. Right. Yeah. And that says volumes about you as a person, about how you want to connect and ensure people are getting value. And, that relationship that you are creating with us, with people already, is forever. Right. Like you said, you're getting texts and messages of the good shit. You're not hearing about the bad stuff, because the bad stuff, usually they're just giving up on themselves and going and putting their head in a stand, right? They're not really giving a shit. So that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the things, you had a forward written by Shark Tank star and CEO of FUBU, Damon John. I personally have always wondered about the name FUBU, which is an acronym, which means for us, by us, and its power on the branding world. Has its success been because it's such a unique brand name? And do you recommend people use acronyms in their branding?
Okay, so a few different things there. So I'm going to probably take it out of order, but I'm going to go at it this way.
That's fine.
So acronyms, I would say acronyms can be done well, and they can be done shitty. FUBU, I think, is great because it's like not too many. I'm not a fan of acronyms, which are kind of like a whole bunch of consonants, for example. It's like, you can't pronounce it, right? FUBU, I can pronounce. FUBU, I'm also not too concerned about how do I spell it. I don't think it's going to be FOOBOO, right? So FUBU. Yeah. I think so as long as it doesn't open the door to how the hell do I spell that? How do I pronounce it? And stuff like that. And it may end up being an invented word. That's fine. Ideally, but like, for example, there's that company out in the UK, which they're FC UK. I think it's Fashion and Clothing United Kingdom, but FC UK, right? You go, well, how cool is that? You don't have to be concerned about how to spell it, because it's such a fun play, but something like that works. I've seen horrible abuses of acronyms, and so if they're done well and done simply, can I spell it? If I'm going to scale up, if I'm going to have to spell it every time I introduce to somebody, that's terrible. So I have a love-hate relationship with acronyms. Small percentage they're done well, large percentage they're done poorly. As far as FUBU, what FUBU did that I see, based on my discussions with Damon and what he's written and said about it, he found an underserved demographic. No one gave a damn about that demographic. Unless you were part of that demographic, you wouldn't have even known that was a demographic to even care about, right? That was the magic. That was the bright idea. And Damon's really good at finding something, leaning into it, and leveraging the hell out of it. And that's what he did with FUBU. So, he had the hustle, he had the hunger, because he grew up in Brooklyn and Queens like I did, but he's about 10 years younger. And so, but that's the thing. It was finding that demographic. And then, of course, being some of the greatest innovations that all of us have seen and appreciate were created by frustrated customers. Like, why the hell isn't anybody doing this, right? Whether it's Nike, with Phil Knight and his guys with sneakers, or Steve Jobs looking for a graphic user interface, as opposed to there's one ad that I tore the magazine out of. It was a great ad from Apple back in the day. It was like, we decided to create computers that were people friendly rather than demanding that people become computer friendly, right? And so it was like that was the overall ethos. But the frustrated customers are the ones, I mean, and I'm not a fan of Starbucks, but even Howard Schultz of Starbucks, he didn't like the available coffee options, so he decided to import the Italian coffee drinking experience, at least in atmosphere. I don't know that I don't consider he ever did it in actual product, but at least in atmosphere.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree. So
I think if you had my coffee, there's a roaster that I actually have ship in every 3 weeks. They ship in 2 pounds of coffee that they roast on Tuesday. I receive on Friday, and it's one of the best roasters I've ever had. An amazing taste profile. It's pretty amazing. So,
hey, I'll be an influencer and I'll present it to people. Go ahead and ship me some. I have no problems. I'll drink some online. I'll be one of those people on Instagram and go, there you go. Look at this. Can you smell it?
Exactly. Do you have smell-o-vision on your phone? My phone does. Oh, that was amazing. The aroma was great.
I love it. So can you tell me a story about someone that you've helped go from rags to riches because of branding?
Rags to riches. I know that I've had them have dramatic transformations. Is it if it's rags to riches?
That's fine. You don't have to. It just was something I was thinking about last night.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's three different companies that came to mind as far as companies that I've helped. I mean, there's a buddy of mine, definitely not rags to riches, because I already had helped blow up his prior company that he sold and became very financially independent on. And then after 5 days of retirement, he called me up. He goes, "David, retirement's not for me. We need to go out to lunch. We need to go out to lunch. I have an idea for a new company." And so we went out to lunch, and literally it went from startup to $1 billion valuation in 8 years.
Wow.
So that was one that was just amazing, and here was the mind blower. I will tell you that not many people know this story. When you can help an entrepreneur, I don't care about helping entrepreneurs who are selfish. I care about helping entrepreneurs who are givers, right? I know plenty of very, very wealthy, whether they're, millionaires or more or not, but they're very affluent, be miserable pieces of bullshit because they're selfish. Everything goes to everything. All the roads lead to them. They're the most important person in the room. There's not enough oxygen in the room for anyone else to really thrive or survive, and they're assholes. I don't care about supporting people like that. I don't care about them. I love the entrepreneurs who give, and when I can actually help someone who then lets me know, because of your help, and I'm told this is them. That's the person telling me, because of your help, I was able to donate $50 million to humanitarian causes that I support.
Wow.
I'm like,
I got goosebumps just you saying that. It's amazing.
I blew my mind. It's not like, hey, we had a great year. It's like that it had no dent. They weren't left wanting after that. They were like, how am I going to create another 50 to do that again? So, so it's just, and so that blew my mind. That was at the point that I was like, holy shit, that I can actually help someone who is going to have that much of an impact on other people's lives. It was an amazing experience. Another was a startup out of Napa Valley, and they ended up having they went first year after I rebranded them, their sales increased 300%. The next year they increased another 300%, 900% increase over 24 months.
Wow.
Great company, great person. And lastly, because it's just such a dramatic uptick. Person completed the masterclass. I actually didn't even know what their revenue was the prior year. But he goes, David, he goes, because of what I learned in the masterclass, there was an industry just one lane over from the industry that I was focusing on. And I was not paying attention to it. That's what the person is telling me. One lane over. That one lane over allowed them to charge 3 to 4 times because of that segment. It was a complete fit. They literally could increase their price 3 to 4 times. The profit margin went up. The competition went down because everybody else was ignoring that too. And then he says, David, by the way, this is what's happening. Last year, they grossed $1 million. This year, because of what has been happening as a result of implementing what they learned in the masterclass, they're on track for a $20 million year.
Wow.
So when you can have that kind of impact and you go, son of a bitch. So those are the kinds of things that get me freaking excited to know that, wow, we can really, really ramp shit up in a big way and put people in charge of being able in the driver's seat of that change. Not like, woof, that little hack made it possible for me. Bullshit. I'm never going to allow anybody to assign their success to something else. I'm giving it to you.
Own your own shit.
Own your own shit. Yeah. Own your own shit. 100%.
Yeah. I love that. Your servant mentality is just amazing. Like, honestly, I'm so excited for for that 9 weeks. Excuse me. And even outside of that, to get to know you better. So David, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
Do not make this very, very common mistake. Don't put shit off. Don't put shit off. It's like the conversation I was having with that guy. He goes, and then at the end, he's like, the guy was going to do it. Hey, I'm going to, at the end of 12 weeks, you're just going to be doing the same shit, different day, same shit. Or you can actually have your freaking, your entire career lined up, changed, transformed, period. And he was like, my God, you're right. And here was the other thing I told him. And I think this parallels to it. I said, dude, you ain't no freaking spring chicken anymore. Reward yourself. Reward yourself. Stop just showing up and at the grindstone every freaking day. I'm glad you're willing to work. That's great. But if your goal is to just freaking work with no reward, no being the master of it, rather than it just driving you, you're driving it. And so that's the thing. Don't put stuff off. If you're like, oh, if only, bullshit. If only is bullshit. Someone sold you on that one. Recognize that. Put that sucker to rest. Don't eliminate the if onlys. Eliminate maybe whens. Anything that kind of puts stuff off. Bullshit. Put it to rest and take action now. Right now. You deserve it now. The world needs your skills now. The world needs leadership now. Do it now. Knock off the fucking bullshit of delay. That will erode at your life. It will erode at your soul. It will suck the life out of you. Because
you live on a hamster wheel when you are like that. And when I finally had that realization years ago and started living life on purpose myself, I realized that I needed to carpe diem, seize the day, and just do things. Just like when our first call that I had with you and what's his name, Roger?
Roger, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't hesitate. You didn't have to convince me. I already knew I was going to join the program. We were just having the call. Why? Because making decisions and just owning that shit is actually easier than the procrastination people suffer through. And go to work, go home, get paid mentality. Sometimes it's just freaking seize the day and do whatever it takes to move your life forward. I have people in my life that'll say to me, oh, I can't spend that money. I got to save it for retirement or save for my kids and blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell them, you know what? You need to reward yourself. You don't know if you have tomorrow. Today's the present. Live in today, right? Go and spend some of your money. If you have some left if you do the right things, you're going to have more than enough to retire. And really, who wants to retire? You might slow down a little bit, but I want to be engaged and serve people till the day I take my last breath and I get people laughing at me, right? But that's fine. They're not part of my tribe. The people that don't get it. I'm all, you're circling the wagons, all right? I'm going through the wagons. Like, sorry guys, you guys stay in your own little world. I'm going out here to the new frontier. And yeah, so I really appreciate that answer. That was fantastic.
But there's one thing based on what you said that I want to add to, which is, you talked about this factor of like, oh, they're scared to spend money. I really want your listeners to really get this, because this will change the game. If you are holding tight onto the money, that is an admission that you lack confidence in your own ability to create more money. Those two things go hand in hand. If you're like, oh, no, I'm going to be frugal, but hey, dude, you just made that money the master, and you are a freaking slave. You are freaking a prisoner right now. You have no wealth. I don't care if you have 2 commas and freaking 10 figures in your bank account. You are the pauper of paupers if you are holding on to it and are afraid to use it, because those that are free to use it and flow with it, they have confidence in their ability to generate more of it. If we lose sight of that, we are prisoners, we are paupers, we are broke. We are broke.
That scarcity mindset is so prevalent.
Yeah.
Right. People are so scared. And that's why there's great people like yourself that are out, educating people. And I've been doing it for 19 years in the finance world, and just trying to get people to actually think, right? To actually live in the world, in the present, and, one person at a time. You've already sold me in the sense of, what you can do for people. And now I want to take that ability, and you've integrated that into the course where I teach somebody every week. Like, it's mind blowing, really. It's simplistic, but it's mind blowing.
Right. I know.
Right. I know. It's not rocket science. Thank goodness, because I'd fail. Right.
Me too.
Anyway. So our time is almost up, and I want to respect our listeners and your time. However, before we end, can you please tell the listeners what's the best way to reach you?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, go to my website, risingabovethenoise.com. Rising, RISING, risingabovethenoise.com. You can certainly go there. You can download my free ebook. You can subscribe. I'm on LinkedIn every day. I'm always dropping stuff there. I have a LinkedIn newsletter as well with over almost 17,000 subscribers there as well. But the bottom line is those are 2 places a lot. Of course, I have a YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Twitter, but I think that Twitter is kind of like, I have a very low opinion of Dorsey, and I have a very low opinion of Twitter at this point. I think it's a dinosaur.
Oh, it is a giant bitch session.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Right. And whiny people that complain, but I don't hear a lot of solutions. There's not a lot of proactivity. And again, for my friends and listeners on Twitter, yes, I have a Twitter account. I post once in a while, but it is, I have to agree. I've got a definite opinion about that as well.
Yeah. But those are the places. I mean, risingabovethenoise.com for sure to do that. And if you listen to this and you gotten value out of this, I would just say, look, grab the book. The book was not done. I wrote the book 3 freaking times. My editor, and each one was good, but the first one, she goes, David, it's really good. It's not your voice. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Really? And I was like, and so she said, so I did it again. She goes, this is better. But David, it's not your voice. And I'm like, what? And so then I was like, I'm going, shit. I keep on hitting foul balls. I'm going, what the hell's going on here? That's not like me. You know, I don't know. I'm able to get an idea across. I know that I provide value. I help people. So I'm like, what's different here? And I realized I found it a little daunting. A book, right? It's not like a blog post. You're okay, write a blog post. You have a start, finish, start, middle, and end. And it's kind of like, it's, you know, it's finite. I could write it A to B. I could think of it conceptually, really. Blah, blah, blah. I go, okay, I could do that. So now how do I apply that to this? So I said, okay, I'm going to treat this like a blog post. So that's when I wrote my bullet points and my 33 points, right? And I was like, okay, bang. And I started now fleshing them out. And that was how the book was written. So that, and then when she got that, she goes, wow, she goes, this is cooking. And so that was how I broke through having a book that was reflective of my voice. So if you dug the conversation that Dwight and I are having here, I think you really get a shitload out of the book. That's
right on. I'll make sure that everything's in the show notes, which listeners can find at giveaheck.com and the podcast part of the portal. And this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, David. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn. It is never too late to give a heck. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.